Welcome everyone. My name is Crystal Williams, and this presentation is called Assessing All the Time. I decided to focus on this topic today because I know many PE teachers struggle with assessment. We struggle with how much time we have in class to assess. We struggle with what to assess. So I'm going to address many of those things today. I'm going to give you the why, the how, and what are we going to assess. So first I'm going to start out telling you a little bit about me. I have been teaching for 8 or 9 years. I never can remember, but it's 8 or 9. And I'm going to give you a little bit about my technology journey also. But I taught most of my years in elementary school. I taught 1 year in middle school. I started my assessment journey actually in grad school when I was doing my special project. In my special project, I had to go to a Head Start program, or actually multiple Head Start programs in Arkansas and Mississippi. And I had to go and assess to see how much movement were the students receiving in their program. Now, this was the regular classroom. So I did the pre-test, and then the teachers received new equipment and training. And then I did a post-test to see if the students received more movement after the teachers received training and equipment. So that kind of started my journey there with assessment. I was analyzing data. And then when I moved on to middle school, my first job, I decided, hey, I need to assess. Now, it wasn't because, oh, I did this in college. It was because my students entered the gym. We had 2 classes, and the locker room was a small locker room. And so the first class would go into the locker room, and the other class would sit. Now, I was an interim at this school, so it wasn't my permanent position. But I asked my coworker, I said, hey, can the classes sitting out and waiting for their turn, can they write in a journal? Now, I'm going to tell you this, assessment is a process. It's not something you're just going to say, oh, this is easy at the beginning. So for me, when we started our journals, we kind of just wrote about topics that I found in the book. Then I was like, hey, coach, let's have the students write about whatever topic we're working on in class. For example, if we were working on the 5 components of fitness, they would write a journal about the 5 components of fitness. And we would grade those journals, and it was worth 25% of their grade. After that, I moved on to elementary school, and I continued my assessment process and continued assessments. I actually brought the journals into elementary school. It was very easy. My principal loved that idea. But I did realize as we were doing this, I was using a lot of paper. I also did exit slips at this time, and we still use paper. So then I was like, how can I make this better and not use so much paper? So then I started using sheet protectors, where students can write on the sheet protector, I can check it, and then they can erase it, and I can use it for the next class. Went very well. But then I realized, I'm not documenting my assessment. How can I remember later that little Johnny did well on that assessment? So then I decided, well, we can start taking pictures of those assessments. I can scan those assessments using an app called Rocketbook. So different things like that. Now I'm in my assessment journey, and it's a little different. I have iPads, so I'm excited about that. So I'm able to document every assessment. I do pre and post tests for every unit, and we do formative assessments along the way. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about all that information. And also, if you can, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, okay? All right, y'all, let's get started. So our objectives today. We want to know, why should we assess? I'm going to talk about that. What should we assess, and how should we assess? So I'm going to go over all those things today, but my main focus is going to be, how should we assess? So let's start out, why should we assess? Well, we should start with assessment because we want to measure to know, we want to know where students are. So when we start an activity, I just don't want to say we're doing this activity. I want to know, well, can she dribble a soccer ball? Is she able to do that? And if she can, I don't want to start her with a beanbag. So an example of this was, I had my kindergarten class. I actually had a student. He was a very good soccer player. And my other kindergarten students, they couldn't dribble at all. So we did our pre-test, and I noticed this. And so I gave all the kindergartners a beanbag to start out with. But that one particular student, I let him start out with a ball. I didn't want to start him where everyone else was, because based on his assessment, he was already past that. He was advanced. So this leads me into assessment also helps guide your class instruction. Okay, so now I made that decision based on the assessment. what item should I give that student? Also, I change my instructions based on what the students do on their pretest. I also use assessment as a checkpoint, meaning along the way, I'm checking to make sure students are moving towards the goal. I don't want to get to the post-test and be like, oh, I hope everybody knows how to dribble now. I want to check along the way. So that leads me to our next one is check to see if goals are reached. So now I'm at the post-test. I'm checking to do my post-test to see if the students have reached their goal. The next one, you can use assessment to motivate students. You can have your students set a goal based on their assessment. So if they did so many laps in the pacer, then they can set a goal based on that pretest of the assessment they did for the pacer. So then they could try to improve to get to whatever their goal is for the post-test of the pacer. Communicate with parents. This is very important to me, and I'm going to go into a little more details a little later, but you do want to communicate with parents to let them know how students are doing. Well, if you're not documenting your assessments, then how would you know, or hopefully you will remember, what your students did in class? You don't want to just say, oh, he's so great. You want to say, hey, your student is able to do this, this, and this, and if they can do those skills, later they can go into the real world and be able to do this, this, and this. All right, and also you can use assessment to provide grades. Now for me, that's a little different because we don't actually give our students grades at our school, but that does not mean you cannot assess. You still want to be able to see, are your students improving? So what should we assess? Now, this is my handy dandy objective card. Since I started teaching, I always have used an objective that I posted somewhere in my gym. The great part about this objective card is I can move her around anywhere in my gym. And I always read this objective at the beginning of class to let my students know what we're learning today. Now, on this objective, I got this objective based on my Tennessee state standards. So I always start my lessons when I'm creating them and preparing. I look at first we have a pacing guide for our district to know where I need to be. Our pacing guide is based on SHAPE's grade level outcomes. So then I go to the grade level outcomes to see what should each grade level be able to do. So then I break down that objective or break down that standard to create my objective. So my objective says I can perform locomotor skills in general space. For kindergarten, I want them to be able to do 4 of the 8. Now I do still teach all 8, but I let them know which 4 I'm going to be watching for when I assess them. And that's how I do this. So going to the next page, this is actually SHAPE's grade level outcomes. And many schools, I know they use your state's grade level outcomes, and that's fine. So in this, you have over here to the left, the locomotor skills that you're looking for your students to be able to do. Now, for each grade level, you're looking at what you're expecting to see at each grade level. If I'm assessing 5th grade, I'm not going to look at the kindergarten column. However, when I'm assessing 5th grade on their pretest, I might notice they're not at 5th grade level yet, and I need to scale back to the 3rd grade level. Okay, so we're going to focus on kindergarten, perform skills, hopping, galloping, running, sliding, skipping while maintaining balance. Okay, so then I will make my objective based on that. So here's an actual I think it was my post-test that I did with my kindergartners on the locomotor skills. Now, and let me take it back. Actually, I used the Tennessee grade level outcomes because we actually use jumping as one of our kindergarten skills. So you will see my students kind of how I'm set up. They're in the line. I will call out group 1. Group 1 will go to the last number in the line. They will walk back, and you'll hear me say speed walk back, and then group 2 will go. Now, another thing is that something you want to focus on, and you'll see one little student do this in my video, is you want to let your students know, and you have to really work on it, especially in kindergarten, and this was at the beginning of the year. Tell them, this is not a race. I want you to show me your very best, whatever it is you want them to do. So this is not a race. Okay, so you will see one little fella kind of go a little fast, and that made him kind of mess up on his test. But sometimes I will go back and I have that student do it over again, especially if I notice that the student can do that skill. So here's the video. Group 2, speed walk back. So in this video, I'm watching my students perform the jump, and then I'm logging the information into my iPad. Now, you can log it in on a check sheet if you don't have iPads. You can log it in your phone if you don't have the iPad at school. Whatever, you can use whatever you need to use to be able to do this assessment. It does not take me long, and my kids know the same routine every time. I have numbers on the floor. They go to their numbers, and then they get into their rows, and then we move. I try my very best to use the same format every time, so my students already know what to do. Only thing they need to do is make sure they listen when I start to talk to know what skill we're about to perform. And of course, before this, we read our objective, and I kind of went over what to do so they will know what's going to happen. All right, so how should we assess? I know that is the big part of assessment. How can I set this up in my class? How can I make this quick and easy for the students to do? And that is my big focus. Before I get into the setup, I'm going to talk a little bit about assessing for learning. Your students are going to do assessments, meaning peer assessments, self-assessments, and you will give some assessments on your own, where it's teacher-led assessments. Also, the assessments should be continuous, and the teacher and the students should receive feedback, okay? So that's assessment for learning. Now, set up for assessment, types of assessments that you can give. I already named pre-test, post-test, formative assessments, okay? So those are different types of assessments that that you can do. Now, so we're going to start with another assessment. I'm going to show you another video. In this video, you're going to actually see my 5th grade class, I believe, it's either 4th or 5th grade class, performing an assessment. You will notice they are almost in the same format that my kindergarten students were, but it's a little different because this is a peer assessment. They're going to dribble their soccer ball to the X, and then the partner that's assessing them will pick the soccer ball up, walk it back to where it started, and then they're going to go to the iPad. I try to do this format every time we can, depending on what we're on. So here's the video of my students doing the assessment. Okay, so you see my students, and with the older kids, they're not racing. They're just doing exactly what they're supposed to. But one thing is, they have been doing this for longer than my kindergarten students have. All right, so now I'm going to show you the actual setup, just using numbers. So I want to make sure you understand the rotation of how I do my assessment. Now, one difference is you cannot see the X's, so I only put the number right at the last number that you can see on this row. So we have number 1, 2, and 3. Number 1 is going to be the peer assessor. Number 2 will be the dribbler. And number 3 will wait in line. So once they complete this rotation, it's going to look like this. Number 1 is going to go to the iPad and log in the information. The other thing about this, really quickly, that I want to tell you is I'm letting my students do a peer assessment, but I'm assessing at the same time. So what I do at the end or later that day, when I go back and look at the data, I compare what the students put in to what I already logged in, okay? So number 2 then becomes the assessor, and then number 3 becomes the dribbler. All right, so like I said, most of the time I try my very best to keep my students in this format. But if I cannot, one example will be when we do fitness stations. That's a little different, and we usually do a cognitive assessment. I have my students in stations. So the assessment is station 1, and as you can see, I have the chairs once again against the bleachers, and they're doing their assessment. I have the QR codes hanging on the bleacher. I call them shelves, but it's actually the bleacher steps. With magnets, if for some reason somebody X out of the Google form, because I'm using Google Forms here. But if they don't hit the X and they just hit submit another form, then it's ready for the next student. I love that. Makes it easy for the kids. It's quick. We don't have to go over there and scan those QR codes over and over again. All right, so I'm going to review assessing without technology, and I'm going to review assessing with technology. Okay, and your decision on which one you're going to use will be based on what devices do you have. If you don't have any devices, then you're going to go without tech. If you have one device, you can go with tech, where it's mostly you using the technology. And then if it's one-to-one at your school or something similar to that, because I have 10 iPads, then you're going to go with tech. And you can do a mixture. It can switch. I always switch it up. It just depends. All right, so first we're going to talk about entry and exit slips. So I kind of talked about that with my middle school students. When they would enter the gym, they would do a journal writing, and then they would go into the locker room and switch out. All right, exit slips, write that on a sheet of paper, and they would leave out the class. It would be towards the end of the class, or you can use sheet protectors and just scan it or take a picture. The next one I'm going to talk about is check in and check out. This was something I loved. I hadn't done it in a while, but actually when I did the check in and check out, I had high fives on my wall that were green, yellow, and red. So I want to give you an example because I didn't have a picture of it. So I did faces on here. I had a great day is green. As the students are leaving out, they can high five. I had an okay day. You can high five the yellow one. I need to talk with the teacher. So if you see a student high five the red, then that's telling you that you and that student need to have a discussion about what's going on today. Even with a student with yellow, you might feel we need to have a discussion. All right, so you can count it, but you want to make sure that you explain to the students what each one means. Now, you can also use this based on how students felt they did with the skill that you taught that day. So, oh man, I feel I did great with soccer dribbling. I'm going to high five that one. So you can use it in that way. I have seen teachers use it where, say you're outside and they put green chalk, red chalk, yellow chalk on the ground. They might put tape so the students can walk across which one that they felt that day. So you can do this when you enter. I'm having a great day today when you're entering PE, because sometimes we need to know when the students enter PE, are they already having a bad day? And if so, let's discuss what's going on already so we can get our day going and go a little bit better. All right, so you can put it on the ground, you can put it on the wall. Next, we're gonna go over teacher checklists. Now on my website, and I am gonna actually have this in a QR, you can scan a QR code at the end, it's gonna take you to all of these documents, is dribbling with hands. Now I have other ones, but this is just an example. This is a teacher checklist you can use. Like I kind of talked about, I log it into the iPad, but you can write your student's name down. You're watching to see, okay, are they doing ready position? Check mark. Are they using their finger pads? Are their eyes forward? Are they, is it the ball coming up to waist high or below? And you will give them check marks as you go. This same exact assessment I will have where you can use it digitally also if you have an iPad or you can use your phone. But this is just showing you, hey, we still can use paper. Some people feel better using paper even if they have an iPad because they want that hard copy where they can write on it. Also, if something happened to the technology, you're kind of safe with that paper copy. All right, so peer assessment is our next one. I have been doing this exact peer assessment probably since my second year of teaching. As you can see on the top row, I have CW. That's the example row. I'm CW, Coach Williams. And you will have about 4 people in a group. The student will do their first turn of whatever skill it is. The person behind them will assess them and give them a check mark if they did it right. Usually only have them look at one cue. If they do it wrong, then you're going to give them a minus sign. I will get 2 turns in a row. We will rotate, and then will be the next person in line's turn. And then the next person will go. We will keep this rotation until everybody receives 10 turns. Okay? If you want to document this, you should take a picture of it. The one thing I added on to mine at school is I would have the kids put their classroom teacher at the top so I'll know what class it actually relates to. And also the actual one I'm going to show you in a second you're going to see that I improved it because I have where the students will put their classroom number instead of initials, because the initials, it could be 5 CWs in the class. Whereas if the classroom number you have, I know that who that number goes directly to. So here is the example of the peer assessment. Once again, you can get this from a website. I have a link at the end. It says classroom number 3, turn number 1, I got a plus, turn number 2, I received a minus. I have the instructions for the students. Now this one, I talk about quick and easy assessment. This one is not a quick assessment. This is something you will actually do during your practice time in class. So if you have students practicing the skill, you can have another student doing a peer assessment. This helps with other students not just standing in line waiting on a turn. This is giving them a duty, and so they can be more involved in the lesson. All right, so our next one is a self-assessment. And so on self-assessment, I have 2 types of self-assessments. This one I use for kindergarten through 2nd grade. And on this, I call it finger self-assessment. I do this every class period. Every class period. At the end, I have my students rate themselves on how they felt they did in a lesson. So say we're doing underhand throwing. I always teach the cues, and I always teach to make sure they can actually do the move. So they will give themselves a 2. I'll have first, I say, close your eyes and rate yourself. I'm not able to perform and name all of the cues yet. You would give yourself a 2 at your chest with your eyes closed. I can perform and name all of the cues. You would give yourself a 1 at your chest with your eyes closed. So this is K through 2nd. 3 through 5 is a little different, a little more detailed. They have the 3-finger self-assessment. So that's how we do one of our self-assessments that I do, like I said, every class period. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is a question check, right? So I'm going to show you one of my activities that I use a question check for. I love the question check because this relates to the time where I talk at the beginning where we read our objective to help the kids make sure they're paying attention. So they know Coach Williams is going to do a question check. So in this activity, this is called, we call it Kings of the Court. And the students start at level 1, which is the first row of hula hoops. I think that's a red hula hoop. And if you win, you get to go to the next level and go to the next level. You can't skip a level. But anyway, so you might be waiting in line for your turn to come up. And I come up to you and I ask you, what are the 3 cues for the spike ball serve? If you can name those 3 cues, you can skip level 1. Or whatever level you were going to next, you will be able to skip that level. So my kids are like, man, I'm going to listen because I want to be able to skip a level in the activity, modified activity we're going to do at the end. Or if we're not doing an activity that doesn't have levels, maybe when I come around, if they can name the 3 cues or whatever I want them to name, I can have them go get a water point. And my kids love water points. And all a water point is I say, go get a water point. They get to go out the gym when nobody else does and go get water. Mind you, this is the same water they can ask for anyway. All right. So they get to go out and they're happy about that. And the last thing I might do, if you can name all the 3 cues, I might have those, I might say, let's do a cheer because since so-and-so named all 3 cues. Okay. So we might do a cheer, but most of the time I do water point or you get to skip a level. All right. Another, I call it a peer assessment also, but for the PACER test, we know we always have spotters or whatever you want to call them. So I have 2. And I want to show this picture because once again, I have my students using those sheet protectors. And as you can see, they put the sheet of paper inside the sheet protector. They write the scores down. Now for my students, they write the scores down for the runner and then the runner comes back because usually I let them get water first and they check their score and then they go put them in the iPads. Now what you could do if you don't have iPads is then you can either take a picture of it or you can have the students, one student, maybe you want to pick somebody with great handwriting to write all the scores down for the other students. It's your choice. So as you can see, I'm required to do the PACER. So this is the way we use the sheet protectors to do the PACER test. All right, so now we're going to get to using technology to assess. The first one is my favorite. It is Class Dojo. I use Class Dojo every day. First way I use it is to take attendance in my class. We use it for assessment. Now, most of the time when I use it for assessment, I use it for kindergarten through 2nd grade. Depending on what unit I am on, I will use it for 3 through 5. I am going to show you a video. It's really showing my screen as I'm clicking to assess my students. Now, of course, this is kindergarten again, and I'm calling out a locomotor skill. And as the students go by, I'm watching, and then I will click those students to give them a point for performing the skill correctly. Gallop, go. So as you can see, my students, and this was not this year because I started calling out group numbers this year. I already had some groups to go. I already had clicked on those students. So I added the next group of students, and that was my last group. So now I can award all the students that performed the gallop correctly, I can award them a point. So now when I go and export that data, which I'm going to show you in a minute, when I go export that data, then I can see which students could gallop. Now, if you want, you could give them a negative point for not being able to perform the skill also. Class Dojo is actually an app that is used mostly for behavior, but then I thought to myself, and I used to use it for behavior, it's like, man, I could do the same thing, give points for performing skills correctly, and it's quick and easy. I love to use that app. It is free. You also can use it on the computer if you don't have something where, like an iPad to have an app on. They have the computer version also. So we're going to go to Class Dojo's website. And this is actually my Class Dojo account. You can see I have all my classes in here. The ones with the soccer balls are the ones that I put in. The ones that have an earth, those are classroom teachers that added me so I can go in and put points when students behave well in class, or take away points or add negative points. Now, I'm going to quickly show you. If you want to add a class, of course, if you're brand new to Class Dojo, you won't have any classes. You will just click the new class button. Also, you don't have to type in every student. That's the first question many people ask me. You can paste, if you have a classroom roster, you can paste all the students' names into Class Dojo. So I'm going to go into this one. All right, so you see all of my students. I don't use this much on my computer, but like I said, you can. But one thing, we're going to select multiple students. That's what you're going to look for when you want to be able to click multiple students to give them a point. You can do select all, that's down here, to select all the students. All right, so I'm going to click a few of the students. And now I want to award, and I'm going to move myself, or give them feedback. Also, that's the other great thing. Once you give them the point, you can add specific feedback. You want to say something particular about the student, you can do that also. So I'm going to give feedback. As you can see, I have my skills already in here. If you need to add a new skill, you can. You can add a post if you want to, like I said, give specific feedback to a student. So I'm going to click inside of the foot. So it gave 8 students a point for using the inside of their foot. Now, I practiced with this the other day, so you're going to see 2 points on here, maybe for some. But so this is view reports. I went up here to options. You click view reports. The great thing about this is you can also see, without even going in, who all you gave a point to. Now, if you want to look at it in a spreadsheet, you just click view spreadsheet. Here's my spreadsheet. Like I told you, so I did this yesterday. So a couple of students have 2 points. Well, they have 2 points because I clicked jump yesterday. So it's showing you the different skills. So I did jump yesterday, and today we're working on inside of the foot just to pretend. So you see that it's showing you in different columns. If I click that a student was absent, that will come into the column. If I put that they were early, late, which is good for middle school, you can have all this information in there. Also, the great thing with Class Dojo is that As you can send this information directly to parents if you have them linked onto your Class Dojo account. Now, I don't use it in that way. Also, they have a portfolio feature on here. I don't use that either. But like I said, with Class Dojo, there are a ton of features that you can use in your classroom. All right, so next we're going to talk a little bit about clickers. And I use those in my class. Well, I mainly use Plagnets in my class. You're going to see a picture of my students using clickers. We hadn't used those in forever, but we used to. Now we use Plagnets. You're going to actually see a video of my students going through using the Plagnets in class. And you're going to also hear me talking about it a little bit. So here we go. Check it out.
I've been using clickers for a few years, but now I'm using Plagnets. We love Plagnets. We just stick them to our bleachers. We post a question above them. I read the question and the kids can read it for themselves. They turn to the answers and then they go line up. It only takes us about 1 minute to do 2 classes. Very quick, very easy and simple. And also it's easy to track the data in the Plickers website, plickers.com. Check it out.
So on the Plickers, I add all my classes. I actually use my computer to add all my classes in, add all my students. I can paste them in. And then when I get to the class, I click that class teacher. As you can see, we have a lot of classes in ours because we have one account. So I share it with my co-worker. So whoever's leading can talk with the students while the other teacher that's not leading can do the scanning. So once we have them turn it, I actually have magnets on the back that I got from Walmart, very cheap. They turn it and then they go line up. Now one class goes to one set of bleacher shelves, the other class goes to the other set of bleacher shelves. The way they know which ones to go, it has the color at the top. We use it more as an exit slip format. So my students, I read a question before they even get up. I say, put your answer in your head. So that way they are not up there trying to study other people's answers. I count down from 10 and then they should be done because they already should have had their answer in their head, and then they go and line up. So they turn it and move. Then my coworker goes to the class, my class maybe first, he scans it, and then he goes to his class and scan it, and then we have the information logged in. All right, so the next one I want to talk about is FlipGrid. And I know you probably saw a QR code up earlier. This is actually a FlipGrid that you can go to. It is for you all to scan it, and you can test out FlipGrid if you have never used it. You can leave me a video. You will see a video of one thing I did. I used this with my kindergarten through 2nd grade. I have to give you this little bit of info. So I used it with kindergarten through 2nd grade. Not only did I use it with kindergarten, that's the key, kindergarten. Used it with them after we came back from winter break. First day back from winter break, I said, we're going to do FlipGrid. My coworker thought I was insane. And at first we were having a hard time. And this was their first time being on the iPads doing the assessment, because I usually do their assessment for them. So I was like, man, we're struggling. What can I do to improve this? So I was like, oh, I'm going to create a step sheet, because that's something that their teachers will have for them in class where they have a visual. So I created a step sheet after like the first day. And after that, the kids really improved. So I decided, hey, I'm going to make a step sheet, and you're going to see this later, that I can share with other people, because it is key to have that step sheet. Once I created the step sheet, I didn't have to help any more students use FlipGrid. They looked at the step sheet, they knew exactly what to do. And I'm also going to show you how I easily set up FlipGrid so it can be quick for the students. So really quickly, here's a video. I'm going to go ahead and make myself smaller, of my student using FlipGrid. And he's going to tell you the 3, this is actually for our fitness unit, and he's going to give you 3 answers.
Name 3 cardio skills: running, biking, and swimming.
Okay, so you saw the step sheet on the chair. The other thing is, since I'm using with kindergarten, I know that some of my kindergarten students maybe not be able to read well, and they might not be able to write well. So that's why I decided to use FlipGrid. So I had a video of a 5th grade student explaining to the kindergarten students, or K through 2nd students, on what we wanted them to do. It said, name 3 cardio skills. or 3 cardio exercises. I also had it written for those that can read. And I also went over the instructions before we even let them touch the iPads. I demonstrated exactly what I wanted them to do. Now, of course, on the front end, it always takes a little longer, but it started flowing so fast. All right, so we're going to go to FlipGrid. Now, give you a quick little background. When I create a grid, that is my class. So I have multiple grids created. And as you can see, it's my coworker and my classes. We share the same account. So I made one for the EPEW conference. All right, so we're going to click on it. Now, I actually did, oh, here's my video. I actually did record a video. Now, on the iPad, when the kids actually scan it, they will not be able to see the other students' videos. All right, I can see it because I'm in my teacher account. So the topic will be, you guys will scan that QR code that I showed you earlier, and it will take you here, and it's going to tell you to tell me a little bit about the assessments that you use in your classroom. So once again, there will be a video when you see it that you will go to. So you can click the video, just like my students if they're not able to read, just to give you an example. Also, if they don't want to show their face on camera, they can, as you can see in my example, put an emoji over their face. And like I said, you're going to see the step sheets in a second. I'm going to show you the step sheets to FlipGrid. So this is how I set up my FlipGrid. The other key thing that I do when I set up my FlipGrid is I only make one student. Now I have 2 students in here because this one comes with the account. I'll delete that later. But I only create one student. I actually name my one student in my class as whole class. In here, I name the student first name 1, last name 1. The student ID, when you do scan your that QR code that I'm going to go back to for FlipGrid, make sure you have the app already downloaded. Your student ID will be 11. So you will type in 11, and it's going to take you to the video. And then you can answer the question. The way you respond back to my post is by clicking the little green button, and it will take you directly to it. So that is how we set up our FlipGrid. So when my students come in, they don't have to scan a QR code. All they have to do is hit the green button, and it will take them to create a video to answer the questions. So then the next student, they submit theirs, then the next student comes up. The other thing is, if you want, since I call mine whole class, so for first grade and second grade, at the end it says, do you want to add your name? So they have whole class, I tell them leave that in there, and then they can put their class number in there. I identify them by their class number. All right, so the next one I'm going to talk about is Google Forms. And I'm sorry about that. Here's the FlipGrid code again. Give you a second to scan it. You need the FlipGrid app to scan it. Now, while that's up, I'm going to talk a little bit about Google Forms. As I told you before, in the Google Form, my students do that almost every class period when we're doing a peer assessment. I use it only with 3 through 5. I used it with second grade also. I use it for the PACER test so they can log their data in. So every time you saw the older kids go to the bleachers, they were using a Google Form. There are a lot of formats to use with Google Form. Now, I say that, click, here's a Google Form that you all can fill out to just get an example. And in that Google Form, I even put what feature I am using in the Google Form. So it might be a feature like the students only can type in numbers. So I made it where they cannot type in any letters. Or it might be showing you can do multiple choice and fill in the blank. So there are a ton of features. You can add pictures in Google Forms. It's a lot that you can do in Google Forms. Also, I love it because you can export the data very easily. It's already in the Excel sheet, a spreadsheet, and I'm going to tell you why that's important to me towards the end. So here's a video. Not a video. Here's my website showing you my Google Forms that I already have made. Before we even get into those Google Forms, I have the assessment tools that I actually use in my class that you can see, and you can get the link to go straight to the website for those assessment tools. And here's some Google Forms that I already created. These are based on shape standards. If you would like to make a copy of these, you can, once you make a copy, you can edit it and put anything you want on it. Because I made it very generic because I knew I made these to share with teachers. Like for my students, I actually have their classroom teacher's name in here. But for the examples, if you click the drop down menu for teacher, it says teacher 1, teacher 2. So you can go in and actually put your classroom teachers in here. But if you click here where it says click here for a copy, it will make a copy, and then you can edit that Google form. Now, I have different ways I do the assessments. I give 2 options. Some of them I break it down for each skill. Now, I left it student 1, student 2 because I give my students numbers, so the numbers are in there, but if you want, you can go in and put students' names. So this is breaking down for each skill, each cue to see if, so you would click it if the student is performing the cue. Or if you just want to say the student performed all 3 cues or they did not perform all 3 cues, I have that option over here. Like I told you at the beginning, here's the paper version if you just want to print it out. There's different ones. To backtrack just a little bit, I told you I had a FlipGrid step sheet. This is where you can get that FlipGrid step sheet with the little pictures that I use with my K through 2nd students. And like I said, this only will help you if you're using the format that I use, where I don't have my kids scan a QR code every time and they don't have to put the code in every time. All they have to do is hit that green button and it will take them just to where I need them to be. All right, so I'm gonna do a few quick mentions. All right, the first one is Glide App. Love Glide Apps. This website helps you to create your own apps. You can create an app for an assessment. You can create an app for a conference. There's a ton of features. Now, these are pre-made already, and you can make your own copy. And this is linked to supportrealteachers.org. If you do not know about this website, it's right here, www.supportrealteachers.org. And this is the actual link to get to his list of assessments and things that he already has made in Glide App. It is the best. His website is great, has a ton of information on assessments. Make sure you check that out. But he already has some Glide apps created. I wasn't gonna go into much detail because I can do a whole presentation just on Glide apps on how to use them. But here's some ready-made ones that you can edit and kind of get a feel for it. So check that out. You can be very creative with Glide apps. And I will have the link at the end. The last one is Seesaw. I'm just doing a quick mention on this one because I don't use Seesaw often. Well, let me say this. I was not using Seesaw often when we were in school. Now, since we've been doing online learning, I have been using Seesaw every week. So this is how right now my students are responding back to me when I post a video. So I've been posting videos. They can respond back with a video. They can respond back with just typing, taking pictures. It's a lot they can do, and they love it. And they already knew how to work it because our classroom teachers actually have them using Seesaw. All right, so here's a quick video of my students using Seesaw. They used it in 2 ways. One way, a student is actually going to put text on the picture, and the other way, another student is going to give feedback using the voiceover. Now, this was actually a peer assessment that my students did.
Preston did good.
Now, that was only pictures and a voiceover, but the students could video. One thing I learned about Seesaw, and probably why we don't use it as much, was that my students, they wanted to edit those videos over and over with the older kids. Now, some reason in FlipGrid, I only gave them 30 seconds, so they didn't I guess they didn't want to edit the videos as much. So I didn't have that issue, but with some reason with Seesaw, they want to keep redoing and redoing. So it took a lot of time. So that's kind of when we were like, oh, we're not going to use it as much. But this has been a great tool. And I think once we go back, hopefully to our normal, that I will get back to using Seesaw more in the classroom because it has been very helpful online. Once again, this is the QR code to go to the FlipGrid if you need it. And this is the QR code to go to the Google form for you to fill it out, just to check out Google Forms if you have never used it before. So that is assessing using tech. Now, I talked about being able to export data. It is very important to me because I post data in my class. The first picture says PE data wall. I actually forgot all about this, that I used to do this all the time and post the data actually inside of my gym. At this school, my gym wasn't connected, so I never thought about posting it in the hallway or anything. But I posted it in my gym and I would post the data. I never post by students' name. I never put their names up there. I posted by class or grade level or something like that. Okay, so I don't want to have personal student data up there, but I do post just the classroom data, the grade level data. And sometimes this motivates students. They're like, man, I want my classroom teacher to have the highest bar. Okay, so I posted up there so the students can see it, and they do actually use it. And then this one on the other side that says assessments in PE, that's my poster now outside of my gym. It's still up there. And every unit, I will post the skill that we're working on. So as you can see, we're working on basketball dribbling in this picture. I will say how many kindergarten students perform 5 dribbles in a row with the correct form. So I actually watched my kindergarten students to make sure they were able to do 5 in a row and make sure that they had the cues that they were supposed to have. And that's how I got this data. And I was able to export it because I'm sure I used Class Dojo with this assessment. Able to export it, see what I need to post, take that data out of that Excel sheet, not even take it out, create tables in the Excel sheet, and it's just quick, and then I print it off and I put it in the hallway. Now, I wanted to make sure I had this next poster here in the video. Our classes have heart, the heart award. This data is based on data from our heart rate monitors. So the classes that earn the most badges will be at the top, and it's based on the average because I know every class doesn't have the same number of students. So it's 2 classes in that class, 1 class period on Monday, I guess we'll say. So it's 2 classes in there, and we will put those scores together, the badges together, because we put all of 1 class, and if it's 2 classes in there, we put all of them in 1 section in our heart rate monitor program. So then we will average them, see which class had the most, the highest average, and that's how we do our order. The kids love this. So then they're motivating each other to see, hey, let me push so-and-so to move to get their heart rate up or to get it in the zone. Because also you don't want it to go in the red. So they know they need to be in the zone. So my kids really, they love that. It really motivates them. It makes them really take responsibility of their fitness in class, their movement in class, and it helps them pay attention. Because like I said, I didn't have to worry about it dropping too low. It's those that went too high. So now they're like, okay, what do I need to do to lower my heart rate so I can stay in the zone during class? All right, so before I even say get to this ending, I do want to thank Matthew Bassett for allowing me to present here at the EPEW conference. I always want to go to this conference, even though I'm not actually there. I'm just so thrilled that I had this opportunity. So thank you to Matthew Bassett. Thank you to everybody that's watching. If you need help with anything that I talked about today, you can email me at pecoachwilliams@gmail.com. pecoachwilliams@gmail.com. You can email me. Maybe you want me to go into more details about an app that I talked about. We can do a Zoom. I can walk you step by step through those apps to show you how to do it. Also, follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I post videos on there. I'm going to post more about assessments. Scan that QR code to get the resources that I talked about today. Guys, have a great day. Thank you for having me. See you later.
Thank you for watching this session from EPEW 2020. We're saving the next few minutes for you to ask those final questions before we log off. If you have any questions afterwards, please reach out to the presenter or send a message to EPEW through our website.
Don't forget that we have more amazing sessions going on. Head over to our website, epew-cp.weebly.com, and look for the virtual EPEW 2020 tab.
You can also access the presentations on YouTube by typing in the hashtag EPEW 2020.
We'd like to thank the amazing EPEW committee for all their hard work over this past year. This event would not have been possible without their dedication, commitment, and volunteering their time to providing high-quality professional development.
Don't forget about our other events like our socials and share times. Links can be found on our website.
Remember our motto for EPEW, come to learn, leave as family. Thank you for joining our family today.